The second issue is tree trimming. We cannot afford to be damaging our trees. There's published research that is showing damage to trees from the radio frequency radiation.
Today I have absolutely no remaining doubt that weak technical electromagnetic fields are able to cause harm to living organisms. Spatially inhomogeneous high-frequency field distributions cause spatially inhomogeneous tree damage.
But also, if the poles are going to be going up 6 to 15 feet, there inevitably is going to be trimming that's going to happen. Yet the ZTA has no protections or accountability in terms of the impact to street trees and the canopy, who's going to be trimming, where is the oversight, where is the enforcement. The Sierra Club of Washington, D.C. testified to the D.C. Council a couple years ago calling for protections for D.C. trees.
DDOT's draft small cell design guidelines state that trees shall not be removed or have their critical root zones damaged for the installation of small cell infrastructure. It's a good thing that DDOT has thought about the effect that this small cell technology will have on the trees of D.C. However, deeper consideration of the issue is needed. Specifically, the District of Columbia must ensure that street trees are not aggressively pruned as D.C. moves towards small cell infrastructure. This technology requires a direct line of sight between small cells. That could require chopping off large portions of tree branches, which could kill some of the district's largest and most majestic trees. Trees do not flourish with aggressive pruning. When they die, it takes decades to grow new trees the size of the large canopy trees that have been lost. That's not worth a slightly faster game of Angry Birds or a faster download of the latest Ariana Grande song. That's not to say expanding small cell technology isn't important. Like nearly everyone else in this room, I use my smartphone a lot, probably too much. I understand the need for faster data on wireless devices, but that should not come at a cost of damaging our tree canopy, which is just beginning to recover after decades of neglect. The Sierra Club requests that before the deployment of small cell technology, the district undertake a study of how this infrastructure will affect DC's trees. We ask that the DC government develop a plan to ensure maximum protection of our trees and our tree canopy, not just making sure trees aren't cut down and protecting the roots, but also protecting tree branches from heavy pruning. We cannot and should not try to prevent the advancement of 5G technology in the district, but we must ensure that our trees and our tree canopy are protected for future generations, for your granddaughter, for millions of others, and for the future of the climate.
And there needs to be an environmental impact assessment that considers trees, as well as impacts to pollinators and wildlife. The FCC limits were not developed, those are the radiation limits from the cell towers, where they weren't developed to protect our flora or fauna or wildlife. There is no US or international authority that has expertise in science, biology, or safety that has ever acted to review the current body of research and develop safety limits for our wildlife. And that is part of our lawsuit, Environmental Health Trust et al. Versus the FCC, that we are awaiting a court ruling on. So there's also extensive research in the published literature, and most recently, a 2021 review by former US Fish and Wildlife biologist lead on cell tower impacts, Dr. Albert Manville, and other experts, which reviewed the science on impacts to wildlife. And I quote, ecological effects have been seen broadly on orientation, migration, food finding, and all of that is in published research, which I'll put in the chat while you put in your questions. So there is a lot that is missing from this ZTA to protect the community, to protect the environment, to protect Montgomery County.